completions like the 49ers seem to for Purdy every red zone trip? Has it been game plan, execution, or both? So I saw a couple interesting screen grabs going around today. I think Damian Woody shared one where like Conklin was open on one of the third down plays, and like Zach, the point was that like the play was there, Zach just missed it. I think this has been a big focus of discussion because the Jets kicked like 111 field goals against Denver, and they had those two sequences in particular where first and goal at the 10, run for 2 yards, incomplete pass. Or it was roughly something like that. And I think it's both. And I do want to also caveat, there is no team in the NFL who is going to be like the 49ers. The 49ers, beyond having Shanahan, who is a genius at this stuff, have one of the two best tight ends in the NFL in Kittle, have two of the 10 best receivers in the league in Debo and Ayuk, and have the best running back in football in Christian McCaffrey, and have a great offensive line. So that changes some things that the Jets can't do. Now, to be clear, the play calling is not imaginative enough in the red zone.
Right.
And Zach also needs to be a little more decisive there. The thing about the red zone is like everything gets shrunken down. You got to just let it rip. Guys are not going to be wide open. I see down there is like that's where you want get Garrett Wilson one-on-one. Get the ball to your best players in the red zone. Get Breece Hall maybe involved in the pass game a little bit. Your tight ends off play action. I loved how they called it in the preseason against Carolina, who is a terrible team, but still they had those like 4 touchdown passes to the tight ends. If you're going to use your tight ends, get creative off play action, and if not, let Garrett Wilson go win one-on-one. Try to let Breece Hall win one-on-one. Maybe split out a little bit. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think it's a mix of both. I mean, on your second watch through of the game, why did the Jets have to kick 5 field goals instead of ever scoring a touchdown in the red zone?
I mean, I think people are on it that usually when something's this bad, there's always a combination of things. I think that they are a little predictable. They get down there, right? And they're like, all right, we got down here. We could just punch this in. And they get a little run happy on early downs, which is something they've been better about getting away from in between the 20s, especially against Kansas City. This game was kind of a mixed bag. But down in the red zone, it does seem like they become a little bit predictable where they're like, all right, let's just try to here's how I look at it, right? The simplest way to put it. How teams viewed the Jets offense before the Kansas City game was that they didn't trust Zach Wilson to throw the ball. And that's how the Jets were so effective against Kansas City throwing the ball between the 20s. Now teams, though, still have that feeling about him in the red zone, like cranked up to a 10, where the Jets get in the red and they're like, okay, we're in the red zone. We can't make a mistake. Like we have it's cowardly play, but they play like we have to have 3.
Yep.
We have to have 3. Yep. Hopefully, basically the Jets come down in the red, and this isn't an overwhelming knock on Hackett and Zach and everything. It's more of a mindset thing, which I think Saleh deserves some blame for. They get down in the red, and they're like, okay, we don't want to make a mistake, and we got Breece Hall, so let's try to punch it in. And that doesn't work because, like you said, Joe, there's less space. They're loading up. It's really hard to score. And then they go, okay, that didn't work. Let's try to throw on second or third down. And Hackett, you watch some of the designs, like he's doing a really good job of creating traffic now, a lot of rubs when you see.
Yeah.
So the last 2 weeks, the 2 misses I've seen from Zach are the one I showed in the film room against Kansas City where they had a rub going and Michael Carter got loose in the flat. If he stays on it a little longer, he throws it to Carter and Carter walks into the end zone. The one that he kind of missed the Garrett Wilson because he didn't really throw it with touch and didn't lead him. And I know Damian Woody had that post, and Conklin was open as well. Once again, those are a good job of Hackett drawing up traffic and legal pick plays and stuff like that. And the thing is, right away when you see them missing, like Zach just needs to be a little bit more patient. This is what happens when you have a young quarterback that's riding the roller coaster. Zach went through this where the number one thing they were probably in his ear about after a year and a half was, dude, you hold the ball way too long. Like, you got to get rid of the ball. Yep. So now Zach drops back, and this is it's a good direction. He drops back, and he's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, the ball's got to be out.
Yep.
When now there's some opportunities where he bails on good designs a little early because he probably doesn't want to get in trouble for taking a sack in that area. So, and once again, I'm not giving Zach Wilson an excuse. Like, these are things that he needs to work on. But this is kind of the ebbs and flow of having a young quarterback that you're trying to develop. You're trying to fix one problem, and then you overcorrect, and then now you got to fix that problem and find the middle ground. And to be fair, a lot of young quarterbacks go through this. I mean, if anyone's watched Trevor Lawrence this year, it looks awesome, but Trevor Lawrence still struggles a lot in the red zone. This is just something you deal with young quarterbacks. So the red zone offense has been bad. No one's denying that. They are a combination of predictable and dealing with a young quarterback that looks better in between the 20s but is not figured out in the red area, because realistically that's probably the hardest area to succeed on the football field, and why you went out and got Aaron Rodgers. So now I think what some Jets fans are probably thinking too is, okay, well, if that's the issue, remember how creative LaFleur got in the red zone because he knew that? They ran all these weird
a lot of Barrios
plays. Yeah, a lot of Barrios. Maybe you do get a jet sweep going to Xavier Gibson and see if you could stress the edges. Maybe you do just throw the ball in the flat to Brees, because when Brees is in the flat, he's so fast, he could probably get to the pylon. Like, maybe you start to kind of not outthink yourself and go, let's just get the fastest players in our offense the ball outside and see if that works at all and see if that opens up some space. So they're going through it, but there's tweaks to be made. I would say this, from watching the film, I actually think there's a glass half full side of this here, that the designs are okay and that the young quarterback has fixed some things in between the 20s. Maybe he can make another little step in the red.
I also wonder if using him as a runner becomes more of a thing in the red zone. Like, spread everybody out, let him just rip that QB draw up the middle, let him make a guy miss. Kind of like, it was off script, but kind of like he did on the 2-point play against Kansas City. He is a really good athlete, and he did a good job in the Denver game, like he did in the Dallas game, of taking off up the A gap when there's nothing there. And like, can you steal a touchdown or two that way with his legs? And he had a handful of rushing of touchdowns as a rookie. I remember the one in particular against